Hello and a very warm welcome back to the channel. We may well be witnessing the biggest U-turn in modern automotive history because policymakers, well, they're about to scrap the 2035 engine ban. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what has changed and why these changes are, I think, the catalyst to this ban disappearing altogether. Now, we've known for some time that there's been intense pressure, intense lobbying behind the scenes from car manufacturers to try and halt this guillotine 2035 engine ban, both here in the UK and over in Europe. This easy transition over to electric is just not working, and manufacturers are at the point of saying enough is enough. We're just not going to be able to continue with the regulations and targets that you're asking us to hit when it comes to electric vehicles. Volkswagen, Stellantis, Ford, Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, I could continue. They've all been very public about saying something needs to change. And in fact, the only manufacturers you'll find actively supporting the ban are Volvo and Polestar, who are both owned by Chinese car giant Geely. So you can see why they might have a bit of bias towards us all driving electric cars. For UK and European based manufacturers, however, things really are getting a bit critical now. So for a start, over in Germany, there's talk of 51,000 job losses. Volkswagen, they've asked for 35,000 redundancies by 2030. Here in the UK, well, it's more of the same, isn't it? Job cuts, factory closures, new car registrations continuing to go off a cliff. It is becoming pretty irrefutable that the industry is in turmoil and is struggling. And look, it's all very well if you like your Tesla and it suits your own particular use case and you can plug it in and charge it cheap and it does what you need it to do. But trying to force them, not necessarily Teslas, electric vehicles in general, on every single driver, trying to force them on every driver, which is what the engine ban and the ZEV mandate is doing, is killing the market. And that's not my opinion. That's what the big manufacturers, that's what the numbers are telling us. Something has to change, and mercifully, it looks like it finally is. So, it was announced earlier this year that the European Commission, they were going to be putting together a package to support automakers. It was expected, this was going to be more of the same. Maybe allow certain plug-in hybrids, maybe introduce another subsidy like we have here in the UK. But last week, it became clear that this package goes much further than that. So in an interview, the EU's Transport Commissioner admitted that sustainable fuels are one of the key points considered in this package. When he was asked further on it, he confirmed that yes, this would mean cars registered after 2035 could still have a combustion engine fitted so long as it was capable of running on sustainable fuels, effectively scrapping the engine ban. Now, I'll circle back and come on to what sustainable fuels are. We'll talk a bit about it in just a moment. But first, let me get rid of any thoughts you might have about this only being applicable to the EU. It's EU policy. Why does it matter to us here in the UK? Well, the reason it matters is because in the UK, we have a tendency of copying whatever's happening with automotive legislation over in the EU. Our CO2 rules, they're effectively a copy-paste of theirs. Our fleet standards, a copy of theirs. Even the UK type approval is an intentional mimic of the EU equivalent. It makes sense given that the UK and the EU automotive markets, they export heavily into one another. Over half of the cars made in the UK are exported to the EU, and we import nearly 70% of our cars from there. If there's suddenly this massive discrepancy between policies, well, they can kiss goodbye to this lucrative trade, which means more industry fatalities, more job losses, more cost hikes for manufacturers and consumers on both sides. So it puts intense pressure on the UK to continue to copy the policies put in place by the EU. That's why it's relevant to us here in the UK. Here's the worry though. There's a big fat lucrative elephant in the room. China, who are quite literally manufacturing more electric cars than they know what to do with. They will very quickly jump on this import shortfall. Mark my words there. What that means for us is the coveted aspirational German brands, for instance, will be phased out in favour of manufacturers who didn't even exist 3 years ago. As has been proven, the British public will indeed buy such a thing. And I do worry about the longevity, the availability of parts for these cars as the years roll by, but I digress, that's for another video. My original point is to put the blinkers on and continue down this road of mandating electric vehicles for everyone would be absolute suicide. The only reason it's gotten this far, barely, is because it's been done in tandem with the EU. Without them and their manufacturers on a similar path, we will very quickly wind up with a massive reliance on Chinese brands. And here's the thing, keep in mind the whole reason why these electric car mandates appeared in the first place. It wasn't just to become the country with the largest collection of electric vehicles, it was to try and reduce CO2 levels. The government's seen the success of Tesla, they've seen electric being touted as this new big thing, and they knee-jerked into it. And ever since then, have been learning that actually, this doesn't really work for everyone, especially if you don't have a driveway, you don't have anywhere to charge it privately, and you're at the mercy of public chargers. Through making these videos, I've noticed a massive shift in public opinion on electric vehicles. I first made an EV critical video good few years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago now was my first one. When they were very much in vogue, they could do no wrong, they were the hot new thing, and I got massive backlash for that. Since then, more and more people, either through their own hard lessons or buying one of these things and having a bad experience, have joined in on saying, maybe these EVs aren't the answer. And the thing is, if the goal truly is CO2 reduction, then it is absolute madness to limit ourselves to one specific way of doing that and completely ignore any emerging tech which may well be a better fit. Even the world leaders in electric vehicles, China, they've moved on. And now, rather than an electric vehicle mandate like we have here, they've got a new energy mandate which includes range extenders, fuel cells, hybrids, amongst a whole host of other tech. They've got tech neutrality. They're willing to look at other solutions exactly as we should be. We here in the UK will very soon be the only place left fixated on one single technology, battery electric vehicles. It is becoming painfully obvious that, like the rest of the world, including Europe very shortly, that we need to broaden our horizons. So what is this sustainable fuel that we're very likely to see added to policies in the EU and by extension the UK then? Well, I've spoken about these on the channel before, and to my mind it's a solution that's been screaming out for attention from policymakers for quite a number of years now. The beauty of these fuels is that there's no adjustment needed to your existing car. Everything stays the same, the car drives exactly the same, feels exactly the same, just with a massive reduction in CO2 emissions. Around 80% reduction is the realistic figure at the moment, and I'm told that 100% is possible, but it's very, very expensive to do. But what you need to remember is these have been existing in a bit of a vacuum until now. It's been a bit of a niche product, hasn't it? It needs more investment to drive the cost down, which it can't get because it's not yet recognised as a solution on the political front. But it is technically a realistic solution that exists right now and can be used with all our existing cars. Surely that is worthy of consideration. This is the way that motorsport's heading as well. From next year on, Formula 1, World Rally, endurance racing, even British touring cars, all moving over to sustainable fuels. And a number of the big OEMs, the big manufacturers, they're getting behind this as well. So any BMW that was sold this year, from January 2025 on, any car that's left the factory will be filled with a tank of HVO 100, which is a 100% sustainable diesel fuel. Porsche, who are arguably the most public advocate of sustainable fuels, they've got their association to the plant out in Chile, which is where they're producing what they've coined as e-fuels. That's a petrol replacement product that's made from water and CO2 captured from the air, which then goes through a synthesis process powered on site by wind, and the output is e-fuel, a 100% renewable product that, thanks to its huge energy density, 50 times greater than electricity in a battery, can then be shipped to wherever it needs to go very efficiently. They're delighted with the initial results from this plan, and they've got plans to roll them out worldwide. But again, the key is getting government policy on board to make that happen. To keep on this one-track mind and say, nope, we're not having any of that, we're staying put on forcing electric vehicles into the market is insane, isn't it? It's absolute madness at this point. How can anyone contest that? Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not suggesting that sustainable fuels and e-fuels are going to be the sole solution here. It's that one solution fits all mindset with electric cars that's got us into this mess in the first place. For some, I get it, an electric car that they can charge overnight on a low cost energy tariff and then drive 20 city centre miles per day is the perfect fit. I understand that. It has its use case and some people are very happy with that. However, for someone who doesn't have a driveway, doesn't have somewhere to charge, is at the mercy of the expense of public chargers that maybe needs to tow, that maybe needs to do the occasional 500-mile day. There's loads of reasons I could cite here. An EV is absolutely not a good fit. It's not a fit at all. It's a bit like mandating winter jackets. It's great for us here in the Scottish Highlands, but not so good for a nice warm London day. We each have different requirements that need different solutions, is my point. The solution to all of this, I think, is in considering everything that's available to us, and thankfully, that's what we're now seeing the EU do. Now, of course, this all applies to the new car market. Thankfully, on the used market, we've still got plenty of choice there. And if, like me, you're going to be buying from there for some time to come, please do remember, we get 20% off any HPI check from Vehicle Score. You'll find the link and the code for this in my description below. This is a UK-based company. They'll tell you everything that you need to know about that car that you're thinking about buying. There's so many dodgy cars out there on the used market now, so make sure you do one of these checks. It's going to tell you about insurance write-off information. It's going to tell you about finance information. Don't get caught out with any of this stuff, especially when with the discount, it only costs the equivalent of a couple of cups of coffee. It's the best £8 that you'll ever spend. Now, as ever, thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for listening to my thoughts. Please do let me know yours in the comments section below. Hit like on this video if you enjoyed it. Please do hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in a few days' time.